We're going to be having an education conversation in this hour, and we're going to be looking at, all right, which way forward for education. And our guest is seated this hour. And as we are getting into an education conversation this hour, Professor Noah O. Midamba is our guest this hour, Senior Associate Global Center for Policy and Strategy. And we're asking questions about which way forward for education. Prof, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm so excited to be back in the situation room.
Oh, well, glad to have you here. And it's also very good that you've come back with your signature bow tie.
Oh, thank you. Because Oga is here. So I have to be properly ready.
Of course.
Yes.
Well, in that respect, then, how about we welcome you properly with today's proverb, and CT will tell you where he's gone this week, and then you can tell us what you think about that.
But before I do that, let me just say one or two things, and then we can get into that.
Actually, I would like to welcome you with the proverb first, so maybe CT can actually welcome you, and then we can go into that.
Oh,
all
yes.
right?
All
right.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you know that the country from which the proverbs emanate for this whole week have two ladies in positions of authority? The vice president of that country is a lady. She's called Jessica Alupo. The prime minister is also a lady called Robina Nabanja. Mm-hmm. The country is Uganda. Okay? Mm-hmm. This is rare and it's unique.
It is.
Extremely unique. Another proverb. Even the king needs to be taught.
Even the king needs to be taught.
Yes.
Prof, what do you think about that? How would you interpret that?
There are three vital organs we have as human beings. One is your heart, the other one is your brain, and the other one is your mouth. So nobody is perfect.
Okay. No matter what position you are in.
Yes. Think, reflect before you act.
There you go. Pretty straightforward. That one has been this morning, isn't it? So we're looking at education. I mean, and those couple of things that you did want to say, in fact, I think then come into play here. We're looking at a situation where, unfortunately, when we look into the headlines for the last 1 month, education has featured here. Whether we're looking on one paper that talks about the fact that KCSE graduates in limbo over varsity placements, whether you want to look at another headline when you look at alarm as hundreds fail to report to varsities over funding crisis, when you look at children having to be walked back home by their parents because they've not been able to afford fees, when we look at classrooms that were supposed to have been, completed, not having been completed. I mean, the list goes on and on. And crisis is the word that has been used. Heading towards, no man's land is another one. It just continues and it goes on and on and on, and it would appear as though there is a sector that has problems, and deep-seated ones as well. What's your overview of what is currently going on in the education sector in the country?
Let me give you what my father gave me my father, Walter Midamba, gave me when I was 12 years old. And then we get into the thinking of the problem we're talking about. I was 12 years old, and my father looked at me, and we were very close. And he said, do not accept defeat, for God is with you. Mm-hmm. If they close your door, go through the window. If they close the window, go through the wall. And if they close the wall, go through the roof. But never accept defeat. And so I want to congratulate the kids, the learner who just got result. And I know they're anxious about their future and what is going to happen to them. And I want to say I welcome you all to the Learning Center. And also, therefore, whatever result one get should not be the end of where you are going. But reflect on what my father said to me when I was 12 years old. And I live with that till today. First Saturday, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. And I'm sponsoring a preschool. We built a church, and we created a preschool that now has 25 kids. We're providing all the books. I'm paying the teachers, and parents are bringing snacks and everything for the kids. And a kid, my brother Huntington, the youngest one, came to me because I didn't go to church, and he said, "You have to buy shoes for this one kid." And I say, "Is that one of our kids?" And he said, "No." So just walk several miles from another area, and came and said, "She's at near girls. She's 13 years old. She's in Form 3. She got all A's. She's walking barefoot, and everybody has shoes. So she wants you to buy her shoes." And it's a Saturday, so I said, "Now, what are we going to do?" Bata is several miles away. And my brother said, "You must buy this child the shoes." I said, "Okay, let's get in the car." And we got the kids. We drove to Kissi Town and bought the kids 2 pair of shoes and socks. And I never seen a warm smile in my life. The kid was very excited. And he said, "Thank God." No, I'm not God. And I don't pretend to be God. But what I'm saying is calling upon every single members of our society, Kenya, that lift the hands of a child that is looking up to you in your community, whichever way you can.
I hear you calling on people in the community to actually do something about those children who have an issue, okay? Because here we are, and this week we're looking at several of those families who have school fees to pay and are not able to do so and are having to take their children back home. We also have a situation whereby school fees has been increased because whatever should come from government coffers has not come. And again, parents are not able to afford this. But it doesn't point to the lack of communal or societal will to help. What it points to is fundamental cracks and fissures in government that should deal with these issues from the get-go. How do we start to look at a system which is cracked and deal with those issues so that every child is able to live out their fundamental right of being in school for quality education?
My dear sister, you're raising really fundamental question about the nation state of Kenya. And the facts is we're not as bad off as the headline is saying. Kenya is the leading literary country in East Africa. Kenya is the one that invented M-Pesa. Kenya have one of the most innovative young people they are. But as I'm going to go into this thing, it takes a village to raise a child. It is not government alone, and I'm not here pretending to be speaking for anybody. I'm speaking for myself, and I'm observing, and I'm analyzing, and I'm reporting what I know we should do in terms of what happened to me in America. And why I'm saying this is about lower 50% of us paying taxes. Now, how many are we in Kenya? What's the total population?
55 million plus.
55 million plus. So think about that. That 80% of white Americans are paying taxes. And about over 50% of African Americans are paying taxes in America. So that communities in America and the people in America prioritize education. So does Israel. So does South Korea. So does Singapore. So does Japan. And it takes the village in terms of the parents, the community, the pastors, the church, in order to shake it up and bring it together.
I have to ask you, so are we saying, essentially, that if 55 million Kenyans were paying taxes, if 55 million Kenyans were filling their communal role of coming together and helping one another out, if fathers, mothers, community leaders were doing their role as community, would we suddenly see 46 billion shillings in capitation that was meant to be released on by the 6th of January, then released? Would we see that? I'm trying to make a connection between the communal responsibility or community responsibility and what we see happening at Treasury, for example, where money that was meant to do 1, 2, 3 for children to go back to school has not been released. Is there a direct correlation between that responsibility and this action or inaction from Treasury?
Again, that is what you are raising is right. The point is this community is responsible. The community elect a member of parliament. Mm-hmm. The community elect the president. The community are responsible for the structure and government of Kenya, 3 arms of government. Mm-hmm. And the community can also say, enough is enough, people. It's time for you to go home. We need to elect other people to do it. Mm-hmm. But when people start pointing fingers at each other, okay, this is what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you a definite example. When people start pointing at it, oh, it's the teacher, oh, it's the principal, oh, it's the government, oh, it's the chief. Who is responsible? And therefore, our government must be government of the people, for the people, like Abraham Lincoln said. Mm-hmm. And so we are responsible to make that government responsible. Don't just spit out words. I said, think, reflect, and act. What you say out of your mouth is the result of how your head and your heart think. The question, do you have a solution?
Prof.
And so I'm pushing back because I'm tired of these headlines.
Mm-hmm. Prof, as you speak about the government for the people and by the people and for the people, the government in place was elected by majority of Kenyans in the 2022 elections, that we agree. And as we talk about the government that is in place, there is the budget making process that went into place, 638 billion shillings that was planned to go towards education. But as we speak right now, let me just read some numbers for you. We talk about 48.4 billion shillings funds that were allocated for schools, and the schools that we're talking about, the last term that was closed, actually that was the third term, there is 7,000 shillings capitation that was supposed to go to these schools that was never released by Treasury out of the 22,000 shillings. This goes to show that the government of the day, which was elected by majority of Kenyans, has failed to ensure that children of this republic get to access education as they should. Prof, as we speak about matters to do with education, isn't the government being insincere and unfair in ensuring that the fundamental right of children of Kenya to access education is not granted to them as espoused in the Constitution?
You are right. I mean, there is no question. You and I don't have any debate. Government must do its part. Mm-hmm. The legislature must do their part. And we, the people, must make sure the money budgeted for certain things are implemented. Mm-hmm. Okay, there is no question about it. But what I'm pushing against is just jittery, about everybody. I'm not responsible, so-and-so is responsible. Because there are issues, there are fundamental issues. Mm-hmm. Fundamental issues is that there is more need than the money that we have to implement whatever we need to do, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's education, whether it's whatever. But fundamentally, no country in the world can develop without education. No, you cannot point that. So education must be prioritized. But it is a grassroots level commitment that must make the government accountable at all levels. Okay? There is the national government, there is a county government. There is also responsibilities exposed by our constitution, what the counties are responsible for, and what the national government is responsible for. So the question is, why did we fail? There are complex issues here, people, that let me just mention a few. One is the mindset we have. You know, South Korea has a policy called mindset. That means we can do it. Okay? Whether or not you have money, collectively we can do it. And the government goes and implements things that people say, wow. Second thing is equity. Okay? That's a very big issue that we have. And the third is quality. You know, the people we're producing from university and schools, are they employable? What is happening in the system? And lastly is funding. Okay? Which is never enough based on our need. So the issue is not simply did you budget this and not implement. What is the accountability for making sure that this is budgeted?
Or who is accountable?
The government.
Isn't it? And even within government, because we speak of government sometimes and it's this dinosaur, isn't it?
Yeah, no,
but when we're talking about specific individuals, we're speaking about, groups of people who are responsible for getting things done. And sadly, one of the things that we do see is that when we talk about this accountability or responsibility, whenever we speak about it, as often as we do, we are told that we are being too negative, or that we're looking for negative things in a situation. But sometimes, isn't it that if we don't point out those things to the point that it becomes sore, we will not get traction in doing the right thing? And that's what we're saying.
I agree.
That isn't it just, we just need to get comfortable and make it such a practice that it becomes second skill or second nature of doing the right thing.
I agree with you. But I've traveled in this world more than most Kenya will ever think about. I've seen and learned from everywhere I've traveled. How does Japanese deal with in this kind of situation? How does South Korea deal in this kind of situation? How does Singaporeans, how do they deal with this kind? So the government is not moved away from me. I'm part of the government. And I'm responsible to go in and say, and capable, because I have all the information I can get, where the budget is, what happened, how much was stolen, the pilferage within the system, and who say who, and what are they going to do. We have.
But they're held accountable. This is the thing that I was speaking about.
We are not.
That if somebody's name is on a particular docket, Prof, if it is my name, Ndu, and I am responsible for making sure, for example, that within the system, all schools, this is an example, that within the system, all schools that are registered there in the system are actual schools that exist. And that when they receive money from government, it is going to a proper institution, not a ghost school, not a piece of land with a gate in front of it, so that in the event that we find out something like that is happening, Ndu is responsible. And I think that's the difference between these countries you say that you've traveled to and that you've seen, and what we see on this side of the pond. That responsibility and accountability is a suggestion. It's as if you just blow in the wind in a particular direction and maybe it'll go somewhere. That accountability to the nth is not taken, and then we see a whole system has problems here and there, and that's what we lead to why we call it a crisis. That if we cannot take responsibility at the micro level, how do we want to take and say that at the macro is working?
When I was Vice Chancellor at KCA, we teach what's called mindset. Every single person that is hired to be at the university is taught mindset. Every single student that enroll is taught mindset. The issue is simple. Who is accountable and how are we going to do it together? You know, if you are quiet as a student and something happened, did you speak to the professor or to the person responsible? And when you go home, did you get all what you expect? And so the mindset in this country, it is the mindset of blaming each other. Okay? That's not going to get us to canon. What's going to get us to canon is soul search. Every single person, because the president and the government does not exist outside us. They're the same people. You know, today we'll elect you, and then tomorrow we'll start. You know, why don't you do what we're doing? So we need to make the president accountable. We need to make members of parliament accountable. We need to make the judiciary accountable. We need to make ourselves accountable, because every single one of us are responsible for something. You know, from the church to grassroots level to everything. That is the problem we have in the country.
Prof, we talk about accountability, and when you talk about accountability, it is well espoused even in the structure of this country. We have the president, we have the legislative arm of the government that is supposed to check what the executive is doing. And we know that as we speak today, the arm that is the legislature of this country has laid us down in terms of making sure that checks and balances and accountability we're talking about is actually achieved. Kenyans have been speaking, and Kenyans, even us in this room speaking about what you're doing, is holding the authorities that be to account and saying that we do demand better. But Prof, on the other side, do we have a government that is listening to the people? Like you are saying, we are not distant from the government. We are part and parcel of that government because we put it in power. But the man at the top, those that have the responsibility of making sure that things run, do they listen to what Kenyans are saying? Do they listen to what Professor Midamba is saying?
You know, let me say this again. Leadership. What is it? What's about? I found when I came from America, an institution that really had problems. Faculty and staff not being paid for over a year. People stealing everything from pencil to what have you. And for 6 months, I just watched and observed. The people didn't know what I was doing. They had no idea until I assembled enough information. Then I called the people together. And I said, it's going to be tough. But within 3 years, we're going to recover from our debt. And people are going to be paid on time. And it's not going to come from heaven. It is you. Because I will not fire anyone. We're going to do it together. And let me say, by the end of the 4th year at the university, we had recovered our debt. By then, all faculties were paid on time. And the 5th year, we start promotion and then giving people incentive. And by the time I left, in 10 years, we had the largest surplus, the university. Students moved from 4,000 to 18,000. And if you talk to them today, they're different people. I told students, it doesn't matter where you come from, whether your parents are rich or poor. You are responsible for your future. When my father escorted me to the airport going to America, he said, my son, this is the only money I have. And when you get to America, I will send you some money. Within 1 year in America, I figured out what to do, because this is a land of opportunity. So we figure out, two of us, one from Ethiopia and myself, form a company for cleaning the houses of older people and cutting grasses of those older people. And we did it so well that we are now increasing more and more students to work with us. And I was able to make more money than I can expect. So instead of my father sending me money, I send the money back. That's what I taught my student at KCA. I said, within every graduation, I want to see a millionaire coming out of you, created by you. And therefore, this government that we have is not going to be different than Moi's government, than Kibaki's government, than Kenyatta's government, unless we make it happen. We make every single one of us accountable.
Okay.
And we make the people in there accountable.
In conversations at this hour with Professor Noah Midamba, and we're talking about, all right, a sector in crisis, and what is the way forward. We've come off the break, and Prof, you said to us, we need to all be involved in keeping government accountable. So whether we're talking about education today, we could be talking about something tomorrow. How do we do that? Do we get on social media? Do we participate in radio programming and TV programming? We use all sorts of media. Do we stand out in the street with placards? That might not work to us. We saw with what happens with the protests. How does this play out?
Allow me to give you a skeleton or an image of the problem we have. Then I want to talk about way forward. Way forward is where I want to spend a lot of time, if you allow me. There is a shift from 844 to the new program without adequate preparation. We move faster than, we don't have enough teachers. We don't have trained teachers that will support the new system. The new system is the best, I can tell you. Because my children in America are going to Jewish school. And that system requires every member of the family to be there, the grandparents, the father, the mother, and everything. And the kids are learning. In a preschool, they set them, they give them every tools, and they allow them to play with everything. And then they figure out who is performing art, who is mathematician, who is going to finance, and who is engineer, and who is doing this. They're doing it, parents and the system. The poor trained teachers in the system. You cannot tell me that when you talk about mechanical engineering and looking at that, you can take any teacher to teach class. There is curriculum misalignment, and therefore there is a huge problem. Many academics programs lack relevancy, particularly in the universities, where and I want to just pick Egerton, because I had a long talk with the Vice Chancellor. And I said, why are you teaching criminal justice in a premier agricultural institution that need to produce the best agriculturalists that need to help the community? And the man regretted. He accepted the responsibility for not guiding his school in order to produce the kind of people that we need. Agriculture is number one, to feed the people. There's slow adaptation of remote learning. Remote learning is critical because we don't have enough teachers. For instance, right now I'm teaching 70 students from 16 African countries at Cavendish University. And I'm here based in Kenya, and they're all from all over, including two from Europe. And we're doing fine. All that has got to be programmed, structures got to be in place, and students and the instructors got to know who is doing what. That has got to be done. And that will save us incredible amount of resources. Where we'll need tons of teachers to do that, you have only one person who's doing it. That's where the world is today. There is problem with transition to management. For instance, you cannot just go and get my friend here and say, today you are the vice chancellor. Okay? He never been in that office in his life. He was a teacher. But today you are vice chancellor. You're making decisions about the future of the institution. And you're not being trained. I tell you what Strathmore has done, because that's my best example. The person who is coming is shadow the former vice chancellor for 1 year before they let go and say, now you're in charge. All companies who are successful, including governments, are doing that. We take Israel, take Singapore, take South Korea. They're all doing that. And so there is mismanagement that is over there. Public university at this point where we're sitting have accumulated 70 billion. How did it happen? I was in public university in America, and we have a system. I was vice president of the third largest public university in America. We have a system that if you cannot mismanage your department, you are down by say let's for instance $5 million. The next budget we take away $5 million out of your budget. If you make surplus, we return that money to your budget. So it is mindset, it's training people to think that I can just accept responsibility for having lost $20 million and everything is okay. No, it's not okay.
Prof, I just want to pause there for a second. You're saying certain things which are extremely important, and I would like us to look at it in greater detail, because you're talking about the personal responsibility that people in authority should have. And you're giving good examples, like in academia, where, yes, it's a public university, but because it is funded by either the state or the national or the federal government, you are still held responsible for ensuring that either that money is utilized to the core or you raise more money from it. Correct. And how you benefit from or you don't from either.
Correct.
Yeah. How on earth do you instill a culture of that nature? One, let's talk about our institutions of learning in our public universities, because the level of wastages that we witness in our public universities is profound.
It is great.
How?
Mindset.
That mindset. How do we instill that mindset so that it becomes the norm?
Mindset and culture that we create. We create a culture of accountability, a culture of responsibility, such that I am the one responsible to this institution. Don't lose half of the budget that you were given.
Or don't steal it.
Don't steal it.
Yeah.
And then you come back and ask me, now we have no money to pay our teachers.
May I give an example?
Now we cannot buy laboratory things.
Some of the countries that you give examples of, you gave the example of Singapore, and we often use that as an example in terms of development. But one of the things that they do, which very few people speak of, is the serious disciplinary action they take against government officials who don't do what they are supposed to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Inadvertently setting up a deterrent system whereby you will think 300 times before making a mistake.
Yes.
Because we've seen people whipped in the street. We've seen people jailed. We've seen former presidents go to jail because of things that they've done before.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if we don't do, and I think that because of the things that you say, steal half the budget, it doesn't disappear. Somebody takes it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. We see ghost schools getting capitation. They don't exist. We see ghost students receiving bursary. We see well-to-do students receiving bursary on the back of children
Not only
who don't have anything. But you know why that can continue? Because there is no systemized disciplinary way of handling things like this. So year on year, people can get away with murder. But for me, when we talk about instilling a culture, those examples that we give, how did they instill a culture? That it becomes common knowledge and common practice that if you mess up here, my friend, you will go. Number two, you people become so aware of it that nobody's going to stand up and steal an election. Nobody's going to stand up and steal money that's supposed to go to school lunches, because they know, number one, they will be found out, and number two, something will be done. So rather than have your name tainted, the culture is we just do the right thing.
And Prof, before you answer, as you talk still about matters to do with culture, it is so sad that it is only in this country when we talk about higher education, it seems to appear as though VCs in some parts of this country will be selected by politicians. Some will be frog-marched for not belonging to those specific communities. And that we see as later what it has done to universities like Moi University. Culture. The culture needs to start from the top and from us. Prof.
Let me say this. I meet people who are called doctors.
I like that, who are called doctors.
Yeah, some are called professors. We have seen somebody calling doctor cutting a person like an animal. This person never went to medical school and leaving you there. Then there are people who are calling themselves professors. And I know these people, and I said, when in the world did you become a doctor? And who gave you professor? Because what they call honorary causa is a honorary. We give Ngugi wa Thiong'o at KCA, okay, for the work he has done. And by the way, we were the only people that acknowledge Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Outside Africa, you receive only one. Outside Africa, you receive hundreds of acknowledge. Those people are not supposed to go around call themselves doctors because you didn't go through the process. But how did you? And
which system allows you to continue?
This system allows. Now, so the thing you were talking about, my sister, is we really need to drill our system and our culture. Because what has happened, I was in South Korea when the Minister of Transportation ferry collapsed and killed people. You know what that guy did?
He resigned.
He killed himself.
Yes.
You remember?
I remember.
He killed himself because he cannot go and face his family and face the nation and say I was responsible for this and now people are dead. Now, here we walk out and said we are doing investigation.
No, you're transferred.
A
task force is set up.
Yeah. We're doing investigation. What investigation are you doing? Who is responsible? In Kindu Bay, just before Christmas, someone cut one of my wires, power wire. It happened around Christmas. They come and cut. You pay them. Then they come.
Same people put it
Same back. People come and put it. And I said, I will not pay a penny because I never done that and I will never do that. I want these people accountable. So I'm now back at the headquarters. I'm back with the minister. And I said, now you tell me what happened because I'm paying my bills every month. So we need to make a culture of accountability and payment. Payment. If you do that kind of thing, payment, that you will remember the rest of your life. That's what need to happen. Now, then counties, just give you an idea, permitted to offer bursaries for primary education, village polytechnic, home craft, culture facilities and all that. So the balance between the national government and the counties and the people need to be balanced. And I tell you, we are going to reach a point, and we're not there yet, but we are going to reach a point where primary school and secondary school will be the responsibility of local government. And the national government will then take on higher education. So how we equipped and responsible, and being The responsibility of local government means churches are involved, means parents are involved, means there are other volunteers who are doing, instead of having paid teachers, there are people who are going in and teaching for free. It is happening in the countries I'm talking about. Then tertiary education that we have has to go to be one of the best in the world. You know, the British left a system here where Makerere was responsible for medicine. Kenya was responsible for engineering. And Tanzania
Dar es Salaam
was responsible for what?
law.
You got it. Now you find one university to another. It's copycat of each other. They teach the same thing. They teach everything. And then you ask, why are we paying you resources to teach the same thing that the other person was, the other institution is teaching? So I made KCA a management university. Okay? That's the driving engine of the university. Everything else support it. So when you want to go to the top management university, you go. What is Harvard known for? Okay? It's business and law. But it has all other things. And therefore, we need to put resources where we are going to get the best return for our investment. And we need to tell the university, you create that program, go and find a way to pay it.
I want you to go over that again. A university needs, it's like they have a calling card. It is known. When you go to the university, this is what it is that they are best recognized for, or these disciplines.
Yes.
They have all the others that you may want.
Yeah.
But if you want to be the top in this field, this is the university you go to.
You know, when you drive a car, you do drive a car. A car will not drive without engine. You see?
Yes.
You have all these things will look nice and everything, but they won't move without engine. What is the engine? That is the question that I ask. When you ask about Harvard, when you ask about Yale, when you ask about Oxford, when you ask about Cambridge, the top university, and University of Cape Town, the top in Africa, that's the answer you get. Straight answer. And we cannot afford to have what is going on in our system that bring University of Nairobi down from where it is. We need to have international acclaim, accreditation, and we need to have an outcome that say, yes, this guy is aeronautic engineer, and this guy is heart transplant. They're discovering a new way of doing things, and we are going to benefit out of solar system much better out of this team that is working for us. And therefore, this cannot happen unless we have a mindset and a commitment to change it. Okay, Ngugi wa Thiong'o wrote 2 novels at Makerere University when he was undergraduate. Today, you cannot find one student who will write 1 novel in those schools. Why? Are we going somewhere, or is the system has failed? And so the condition today require that we have a new reawakening, both from preschool, primary, all the way to university. Now, countries are. I want to talk about something else. Countries are setting up what you call 2 empirical ideas for universities and for school. One idea is an obligation that we must teach all children. Okay? And that is a fundamental human right. It's based on 1948 UN Declaration. So that most what you call developed countries have done that. Now, to establish a sustaining world-class university for education, we need to say 1, 2, 3 university is going to be our top tiers university. And we are going to invest our money in them. And the rest we are saying, yes, you can be a teaching institution, you can do all other things, but the government will not invest as much money as you're doing. You need to find those money somewhere else.
And you need to find those solutions.
You need to find...
Our time comes to an end, Prof, and I just think we're just getting into some of these things which are very important, but really I have to, cut us off at that point because, getting to the top of the hour. But they're very vital, fundamental conversations that we continue to have and need to have. And we want to thank you for being here with us this morning. Professor Noah O. Midamba is a Senior Associate of the Global Center for Policy and Strategy, sharing those insights with us this morning. The conversations definitely must continue. Asante Sana.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.